Welcome to the Scale Ups podcast, where each week you get to hear Sean Steele, professional CEO, growth mentor, and advisory board chair, unpack the strategies that successful founders have used to achieve scale in their businesses. Stay tuned as he interviews the entrepreneurs who've made it, learns from industry experts, and follows a group of founders still striving to scale.
G'day everybody, and welcome to the Scale Ups podcast, where we help first-time founders learn the secrets of scaling so they can fulfill the potential of their business, make bigger decisions with greater confidence, and of course, maximize the value they can create in the world. I am your host, Sean Steele, and I'm joined today by Ephram Stephenson, serial entrepreneur and founder and seller of several recruitment businesses in the last decade, Ephram, including most recently Kona and Co. But before that, Design and Construct Australia, Design and Construct UK. I know there was a rebranding to Building Careers Australia, 420 Consulting, Ingeni?
Yeah, Ingeni Resources.
Ingeni Resources, Preston James, and Insurec. And now another recruitment startup called Collar Group. Is that right?
That's correct, mate. Thanks, Sean.
Crikey. You have problems sitting still, don't you?
I do, absolutely. Yeah. Grand old age of 44 and 12 recruitment businesses under my belt, mate. I've been telling my wife though, this is it. This is the final business now in regards to recruitment. I've kind of learned the craft along the way and worked in multiple businesses across different revenue streams, and now feel as if I'm armed with all the tools that I need to grow even a bigger brand. So yeah, no, all excited at the moment, mate.
Well, I just have this sneaking suspicion that you said this before, that this is the last one. It kind of sounds like, yeah, last one, sure, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, no, yeah. Look, it's an ongoing conversation. My last time around, when I sold out a few of the businesses, I was 5 weeks into a year-long sabbatical, and I was laid on a beach in actually my father-in-law's place over in Hawaii, and we're on the Big Island, and it just so happened we're in Kona. So as I say, 5 weeks in board, you can finish the rest, and Kona and Co was founded. So yeah, look, it doesn't keep me long to keep, I guess, getting bored and itchy feet, and like obviously we've spoken quite a few times, mate. It's the nature of the industry. There's huge opportunity out there, and wherever there's opportunity, then there's a real need for, I guess, business and entrepreneurs to really step up and capitalize on the current market.
When you see problems, that's the nature of the entrepreneur, right? See a problem, need to fix it, have this strong desire and urge and itch that something needs to be done about it. Look, to give people a sense of your journey, this has happened over 17 years. You've done through your teams over 10,000 permanent placements and 25,000 temporary placements. And, something that really strikes me about that is that recruitment's not always thought of as a sector out there doing good, but I think those numbers are remarkable because you're helping people to get into jobs that are more fulfilling. That can be, we've probably all been through them. They can be absolutely life-changing, and that doesn't mean that it has to be a charity, but it can be meaningful in the process. And I think those numbers are really remarkable, mate. Can you take me back and kick us off with what led you to recruitment in the first place?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you can tell, I'm originally from the UK, although I have lived in Australia now longer than I've lived in the UK. So put it all into context, I was born in the UK, lived in Jordan, and we were there for about 4 years. My dad was in construction. My grandfather was in construction. So generations after generation. So I always had this passion for construction. Moved back to the UK, then moved to South Africa, there for about 4 years, and then to Harare, Zimbabwe, for about 18 months, back to the UK. And then at the grand old age of 24, decided that Australia was calling, and I was going to come across as a backpacker on a working holiday visa. So myself and my best mate at the time, we pretty much sold all our worldly possessions, which at the time wasn't a great deal. So I think I landed in the country with about $500 to my name. Never worked in recruitment, and I was desperate to obviously get a job that was going to enable me really to stay in the country, and obviously from a sponsorship point of view. So as soon as I landed in Sydney, it was my first port of call. The intention was traveling around Australia and doing the backpacker thing. And 6 weeks in, mate, I was I was stuck. I was trapped. Sydney had me. It was just such a beautiful city. Having come from the northwest of England, which had obviously had its problems in regards to careers, and obviously you would really have to travel probably an hour, 2 hours every day, which in the UK is a big thing. I know over here it's not necessarily, I guess, frowned upon, but I got my first job in recruitment as a telemarketer, and I was paid $13.50 an hour. And my job, Sean, was to read through the Sydney Morning Herald on a Friday, even though it wasn't sold to the public till Saturday. It was released into news agencies, and I would call around and actually set appointments for the recruitment agency that I joined at the time. There was 5 staff. And I did that for 2 weeks, and I was setting the appointments, and the consultants were then going out and trying to pitch for the work. And then they were coming back and saying, unfortunately, the leads aren't warm enough, and they haven't been qualified. So for me, my background is predominantly all sales. I worked for AXA Insurance in the UK, worked for newspaper sales, worked for the largest holiday home provider in the UK. So all sales, all account management. And I begged to differ. Basically, I questioned that I thought they were quality leads. And as I said to the owners of the business, 2 directors at the time, Phil and Bora, look, guys, let me have a go. Let me have a go, do recruitment. You've got nothing to lose. And they then kind of flipped it back around on me and said, well, yeah, fair enough. We actually haven't got anything to lose. So why don't we put you on commission only? And, at the time, backpacker $30.50 an hour was just scraping by. And so, look, I backed myself and I said, yeah, let me have a crack at it. And, fortunately for me, for the first month, I was the top biller of the business. And I was the top biller for the next 24 months. And, it was very much there's a phone, there's a desk, kind of get on with it. No disrespect to the guys, they built a phenomenal brand. And it's actually one of the largest recruitment agencies now over in China. It's a company called Atomic. They've closed down here in Australia, but going absolutely gangbusters over in China. I think they've got something like 300-400 staff, all recruiters now working for them. So that kind of gives you an idea. But at the time when I joined, there was 5 of us. We grew my team to a team of 5, and there's, like most businesses going through a scale, or basically, obviously scaling up, they probably just grew too quickly, too soon, Sean. And being on commission only, what was happening was, unfortunately, my commissions were coming in, and obviously I was expecting quite large paychecks, and that wasn't happening. So I decided to set up my first agency, to just shy of 2.5 years worth of recruitment experience. I set up my first business, which was Design and Construct, set that up from a home office. At the time, I was living in...
And did you start with that because of the upbringing that you'd had with your from the building game, just kind of understood it, or what? Or was that just a market opportunity? I think also passion. Right, the passion was there. A lot of my friends in the UK are all tradies. Carpenters, joiners, electricians, whatever. It's so it's always kind of the topic of conversation whenever you're speaking to people. And for me to actually find that kind of passion for property construction, and also that kind of combined hand in hand with sales and that account management. And like you correctly said, mate, the whole reason why I'm in recruitment is it's such a rewarding career. I've got people still reaching out to me now, 17 years later, who might have placed, 17 years ago, I might have recruited for them 17 years ago. Perfect example is a company called EXO Works. And I believe you obviously those guys quite well, Sean. EXO, Emily Sidney Smith is the CEO. I recruited for 15 years ago, and we haven't spoken in 15 years. And when I launched Kona and Co during COVID, she was one of our first clients and literally reached out to me, hey, Ephram, we haven't spoken 15 years. You did a great job for us all that time ago. I'm now the CEO of EXO Works, and we're keen to use a reputable recruitment partner. And successfully, it was a very successful partnership. And so I think it goes to show that like you were saying, it is a very rewarding industry. If you treat everyone as you expect to be treated, then you will go a long way in this industry. Absolutely. There is an old saying, and I've said this on a few interviews previously, is you are only as good as your last placement, right? And it's so true, because if you keep that benchmark, of an exceptionally high level, then you're always doing the right thing. Then ultimately, that's what recruitment's all about. It's about finding the individual, obviously placing them into a home with a company that, doesn't have a revolving door. And I think that's testament for how I've always set up in business. We're one of the only recruitment network. I can't say that because I've said that in
every single one of my agencies, but we offer a 12-month replacement guarantee. The reason why we do that is, it's twofold. From the client perspective, it shows our clients, that the candidates that we're representing are looking for stability, looking for security, not fly-by-nights, not just looking to come in and obviously, potentially dip the toe in the water for 3 or 6 months. So that's our reputation, that's our livelihood that we're backing ourselves to the clients. From a candidate perspective, though, it also works in exactly the same way, that we're not being paid to recruit for a company that has a revolving door, that has really bad staff retention. And I think that works really well in this current environment where you've got candidates and clients alike both really appreciating the service, but also the aftercare that you provide. And again, like you said, recruitment's not difficult. It's about doing the right thing, and again, making sure that you're looking after everyone.
It's a very similar industry when you think about that to real estate.
Yes.
In that, it's a very personal relationship. You're dealing with both the vendor and the potential buyers of the properties.
Yes.
And those people that stay in and get their 10,000 hours to happen and stay in contact with people and have always done it, with great respect and faith and diligence in the process. They're the ones that, 10, 15 years later have got just people coming to them constantly all the time because they were always they stayed in the game and they were always doing a great job. And as a result, you have this kind of, this sort of pool that builds of goodwill as well as good outcomes.
Yeah. And that's, it's so correct and so true. Like you always treat people, and again, it's just coming back to exactly what I was saying, you always treat people as you would expect to be treated. And within the world of recruitment, it is so, it's so inherent with cowboys. Like there's just dodgy recruitment agencies wherever you look, similar to real estate, similar
Absolutely.
to any
low
other
barrier,
industry.
anything where there's a low barrier to entry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because of that, it's all based on your reputation. It's your relationship that you have with your candidates, with your clients, with your external suppliers, with your internal employees. I'm fortunate. I've got over 100 recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, which is probably 80% of those are people either I've been in business with, or basically have previously worked for me. And I think that speaks testament of the type of culture that we create within our businesses, and I guess ultimately the opportunities that we allow people to take.
You've clearly grown a lot of different brands. Can you give us just a sense, for the audience's benefit, can you give them a sense of perhaps one of the journeys from a numbers perspective? So whether that's, candidates placed or revenue or FTE or however you'd like to sort of tell the story, just to give a sense of the kind of scale of what kind of recruitment business look like when it's going well.
Absolutely. So I guess, Design and Construct, it's always going to be my baby. It was my first business. And, we grew that very successfully. So one-man band. I was living in Piermont at the time in the city when I launched. And so that's in Sydney. And anyone who knows that area quite well, there's a lot of distraction. There's been a 24-year-old it's probably not the best place to launch a business. So I decided to move to a place called Waitara, which is an hour north of Sydney. I'm not going to say in the middle of nowhere, but, not far from being in the middle of nowhere for exactly that reason. I was there for the first 12 months of setting up the home business, and I doubled my revenue year in for the first 4 years. Took it to a team of 6, and then GFC came about. So 2008, 2009, or just 12 months prior, to purchase my first property, was engaged to get married. I'd just taken on, basically doubled my size of my team, new office lease, and yeah, absolutely. And then the GFC obviously turned up, and it was really tough. Like, I'm not going to lie. I mean, COVID has been challenging, but I think the GFC was kind of overnight.
Was it tougher? GFC versus COVID?
It was tougher in a sense that I didn't have the experience.
Right.
I think now, being more resilient, being more experienced, as certainly it presents its challenges. There's no ifs or buts, but I think at the time it was kind of you're potentially going to lose everything here, like a lot of other business owners. So batten down the hatches, went from 6 down to 3. and really rode that out for about 3 years. Very comfortable, decent business, four employees, very low overheads. So 4 including myself, very low overheads, and making some decent revenue. What was happening there was a lot of the larger companies were actually knocking on our door and asking us, because of our reputation, to actually recruit for them as well. So made a conscious decision to really ramp things up in the space of, I guess 4.5, say 5 years. We took it from a $700,000 business to doing about $14 million turnover. Now that had gone from one small office in North Sydney to open up in Sydney. So obviously we got a larger office in Sydney. We then went to Brisbane. From Brisbane we went to Melbourne. From Melbourne we went to London. And then from London we went to Perth. We probably should have done it the other way around. But look, it was exciting. It was fun. The brand was, it was an award-winning brand. We won the best training in the whole of Australia, so Recruitment International Award 2017. Took that prestigious award home, which, you and I have spoken about LMSs before, learning management systems and training and development.
Critical.
And that's still
so
one of my
critical in a
proudest
business
moments.
that's fundamentally where your
100%.
training and your investment in you and your personal development in you actually turns up the next day in the next phone call. It's immediate feedback. It's immediate results. I love that about any game that's fundamentally built on influencing and communication.
Look, absolutely, and it's, I guess, just bringing through, tomorrow's managers today, and also bringing in more experienced people, who sometimes may come in with a little bit more of the tunnel vision, or, they've kind of been taught to do it a certain way. It might not necessarily fit well within your ethics or your business or whatever the case may be. So training absolutely is fundamental. 3 years in a row, we won LinkedIn Most Socially Engaged Businesses, which for the size of our business was a huge achievement. But then I talk about, so that's basically over a 5-year period. And then 2017, 18 started looking at VC. So then we took it from a, say, $14 million business to a $60 million business in literally 18 months. And there wasn't a great deal that changed. I sold the UK entity. We invested heavily into new technology over here in Australia. I actually hired an individual who was at the time a global record biller for a company called Hayes, and they built over 3 million gross profit in their last financial year at Hayes. So for me to then obviously partner with, obviously an investor who assisted me going out to market, hiring the best people in the marketplace, we then actually created 3 of the businesses within the Building Careers. We rebranded to Building Careers Australia. We had basically an entity running out of, obviously out of New South Wales, obviously the WA business as well. And then from there, as I say, within 18 months of a business, brand new business over here in Perth, generated over 50 million in its first 18 months. I think it's,
wow. So how
very
did
impressive.
Let's just break that down a bit, because that is just a staggering in a services business like recruitment, staggering amount to do. How did you think about, how many people did you take on all of a sudden? Like just to scale up on a people perspective, like that's the whole engine in and of itself. How did you do that?
Well, I guess in recruitment, it's all about rainmaking. There's contractually, obviously, companies will always try and put restrictions of trade and restraints in place. But with recruitment, the clients are loyal to the consultant. The candidates are loyal to the consultant. They're not necessarily loyal to the brand. And because of that, ultimately, if you're going out and identifying rainmakers, whether they're doing 1 million in gross profit or whether they're doing 3 million in gross profit, in essence, you've got to have a 3 to 6 month caveat there where the restrictions are obviously going to take place. But literally coming out the other side of that, you're pretty much expected to have another $3 million business or another $1 million business at the end of that. So for us, it was more about, we found the individual that we wanted to build a business around. And look, we're not talking huge numbers in regards to number of employees. Let's just say it grew to a team of 20 within that 18 months, and you would have your rainmaker, you would then have your account managers managing those obviously accounts, and then underneath them you would have the team of resources and compliance, administration, return to work, etc. So for us, it was in essence going out and buying a business, but we weren't actually physically buying anything. We were literally setting somebody up in business on their own who was then capable of generating those types of fees. And that, I guess that's the wonderful world of recruitment. Now, bear in mind that is all revenue based. Obviously, from a temporary point of view, obviously when we do temp, obviously the company pays for the candidate's obviously wage before we even get paid. Some of the larger accounts that we have, they might be 40 days, 45 days, end of month, whatever the case may be. So you do obviously need that capital to carry those salaries for a period of time. But yeah, look, it's on average, it was about 12% profit. So a very successful and very profitable business that really...
Can I just stop you there about just in relation to the working capital side? How do you end up, did you have to take on external funding to manage that, or is it essentially balanced between is it using cash that you're receiving from a perm placement basis that comes in a lot faster and using that to actually cash flow the contractors whilst you're waiting to be paid on those?
Yeah, great question. So depending on the size of the business, depending on the clients and the nature of the industry, is going to determine really, whether you're using your own cash or whether you're using somebody else's cash to really, scale. So twofold. There's a number of factoring businesses out there that purely specialize in recruitment, which will help you carry the cost of the wages. And they may release 80% of the invoice value. Once obviously payments made, then obviously they'll release the other 20% minus their administration costs. The whole idea why I actually decided to partner with a VC was because they had pockets deeper than Oprah, or so I was told. And from there, basically, that's ultimately how you're able to, scale a lot quicker without really having the headaches. Having said that, though, we've just scaled another business. So the same business partner that I hired from being a global superstar, set her up in business. I've recently just exited the business and stepped out. So within 12 months, we've generated a $10 million business. And that's basically all assisted with that, from a factoring point of view. So there's options, there's ways of ultimately growing and scaling. It just really depends on the circumstances, depends on the clientele, and but ultimately depends on the people that you actually have working in the business.
Given that, and given the number of businesses that you have that you've scaled or that you built and sold, how did you think about differentiation? Did you think about, in terms of being able to differentiate that business from its competitors in the market? And to your point, it's a crowded place. There's plenty of cowboys. The cream always rises to the top, right? But did you think about differentiation on a sort of sector and specific recruitment companies in that sector, or did you have a sort of unique approach that you applied to every business and that fundamentally created, differentiate every time you replicated it? How did you think about that?
Yeah, so the first business was design and construct. So exactly what it says on the tin. We were design, we were construction, we were everything kind of within the built environment. Now that obviously came with its restrictions once we started looking at catering, hospitality, mining, oil and gas. You could get away with it to some extent, but obviously clients are going to ask specific questions. Your brand integrity is really going to be diluted. So that's why I've had multiple businesses. The industry really made a shift about 10 years ago where it was quite common for an agency to be more of a generic agency. So Hayes, for example, Hayes are Hayes, but whereas now they're probably known for, Hayes Property and Construction, Hayes Accounting and Finance. So they've gone from being a generic agency to areas of specialization within those businesses. And ultimately, it's all about the individuals, so I'm very fortunate that all of my businesses I've been able to partner with arguably the best consultants that I've certainly ever come across. And I'm obviously going to be biased. So, I look at the Preston James business. That was a recruitment to recruitment business. Irony or no, you own a recruitment agency, but you have to go to an external recruitment agency to find your recruitment consultants. So Preston James, was arguably one of the most successful businesses I've actually had and been a part of, where I went into business, hired an individual to run that business for me. Basically went in as as co-founders. We then hired somebody of equally impressive pedigree and experience over in Perth. And between the two of those, they were, again, arguably Australia's best recruitment to recruitment business. So without those personalities in the business would have really struggled to get off the ground. And it's more about those two individuals. The same with 420, the two guys over at 420, Dan and Lee, again, arguably the best that I've ever come across within their space. So for me, it was a no-brainer to partner with them and actually go out into business and launch a new brand. We then go basically onto the other businesses, the Kona & Co. I explained to you obviously how Kona & Co was started kind of bored on a beach, but the Kona & Co, again, is it's probably been one of the most enjoyable rides, given that it was very short. It was only a year and a half. It was during COVID. I grew that basically from my home office to a operation in. So we had Melbourne, we had Sydney going at one point during the COVID. We had Brisbane, and obviously we've also got Perth, or now they've also got Perth. So I set that up very much as a partnership model. So myself as the founder, basically 100% shareholding. I then basically went out to market and identified individuals that I wanted to basically partner with, and I wanted to provide them with an opportunity of going out into business themselves. So from there, basically, John Wilkinson, James Toff then came to basically onto the scene, which he's now doing insurance, and James and the rest of the management team have just done a management buyout, basically from myself of Kona. We've then got Priscilla, who's doing the accounting. And then also a lady over here in Perth called Ellis, who's also doing insurance. So between the four of those, I don't think there's probably any better recruiters within those fields in the industry, never mind to go into business with. So again, it's kind of that kind of talent magnet where maybe it's my personality, I don't know, but I always seem to attract these types of individuals that are keen to do something. And for me, that's where my passion is, startups, scaling. The exit strategy isn't always at the forefront of my mind. It's more so about the individual. So, i.e. tailored resources that I've recently just stepped out of is exactly that. Leslie, arguably the best recruiter that I've ever come across. Global world record holder, growing the business to a $10 million business in the first 11 months, which is extraordinary. Exactly, as I mentioned to you previously, my personal circumstances have changed. Now found out I'm going to be a dad, so the wife's constantly on at me, all these startups, when's it going to stop? So now, the Collar Group is really my legacy business, and ultimately I'll be using everything that I've learned across all of the other 11 recruitment businesses, which have all been specialist. Collar Group is still going to be a specialist agency, but very much from a generic point of view. So the brand is the Collar Group, and all the industries that we recruit for will all really be headed up by an industry specialist, correct?
Got it. What's really interesting about that is I think it's really instructive for many business leaders in that it may seem to people more obvious that when you're looking to build a business that you go and look for a superstar. Yep. But the number of times that I see founders who really need a role to take them to the next level, who rather than actually proactively find out who is the best, go and have coffees, go and have meetings, see if they can attract the right person, put an ad out, go through a normal process and get whatever happens to be sort of looking out there, rather than going, who is the best in this field? Like, who's the person who's already been there, who may have some interest in taking us on that journey, so they can actually be ones who guide and lift us to the next level, rather than maybe taking a first time rounder who happens to be available at the time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I guess it is industry specific, but I'm very much the latter day, in a sense that I know who the main players are within the recruitment industry, and it's that planting of seed, right? You might have an individual who's billing X, Y, Z, but their take home or their total reward for their revenue is probably around about 30, let's say 40%. So if they're billing $1 million, they're taking home 400,000, hypothetically speaking. Now, as a business owner, you can certainly sharpen your pencil and probably get that closer to $500,000 in their pocket, or maybe even a little bit more, depending on the circumstances, depending on the share structure, the equity offering, whatever the case may be. I mean, that's how you actually stack the deal, right? It's so I think, for me personally, you've got to have those conversations. You've got to be constantly striving to attract the best possible talent into your business. And if you feel that you can't, or you're reluctant to approach it, then, you've got to be prepared for obviously a long road ahead, whether it's cutting corners. I think it's just smart business. And I think ultimately it's about surrounding yourself. We all hear it all the time, right? Surrounding yourself with people who are better than you.
But this is particularly why I'm actually digging down on it, is because it's very easy to, you hear it even in every interview with every successful founder. It's about the team you bring around you, yada, yada, yada. And we all kind of go, no, I got it. Yeah. Great team. Got to have a great team. Yep. Good. But actually, it's very easy for people to revert to type and go, maybe my business isn't that all that interesting, or it's not all that attractive, and maybe I don't deserve that person. But sometimes I actually think they're not putting any effort to actually go and find out who the best people are, and they're not spending a percentage of their time in talent pooling, which I've always thought is an incredibly important job of a founder, to be constantly talent pooling, looking for who are the best players, who's already been there, who's really probably who's kicking our ass at the moment, and is there somebody in there that I could attract to us because of the benefits that I can offer that actually would really help us accelerate on our journey and proactively go and find them. Let me so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was absolutely. I mean, one of the saving graces throughout the whole COVID situation, I was in Melbourne at the time, experiencing the 5-month lockdown there, was exactly that. The talent mapping part of recruitment actually became an extension of our business from a revenue stream during COVID. Appreciate you might not be hiring right now. Things are obviously going to pick up. COVID's going to obviously, disappear. Where do you want to position yourself? Where do you want to be within the next 12, 18 months? What we can do is actually provide you with a full industry competitor analysis, a talent map, obviously identifying some of these key areas. And that in itself, which is normally an extension or a piece of an exec search piece or a search and selection piece, actually became just part and parcel of the recruitment process. Again, it's about that value add, about that USP. And you're right. People are going to sit there and question just how good their business is. They're always looking at their competitors to see how they're stacking up against their competition. One thing I've always been a big believer in is pioneering. He's coming to the industry with new technology. I always talk about tech stack. I want the best tech stack in the market. That's not just to sound like it's just for the sake of saying it. It's I actually, I'm personally, I'm dyslexic. Without Microsoft Word, I wouldn't be able to recruit. That's period. So for me, it's all about how can I help the process? How can I, automate the process as much as possible? And I think once you actually do a thorough review of that, of your business, you'll come up with so many different USPs or value adds that your competition just won't be doing. But you've got to take that to market. I'm relentless on LinkedIn. I've got no shame when it comes to LinkedIn. For me, LinkedIn is a great money-making platform. It's all about brand. People might say, Ephram's posting something else again. And, the reality of it is most of the brand that I've done behind the 11 businesses, and obviously now the 12, has all been done by myself. And then obviously once I've kind of got a little bit of a run going, then obviously I hire somebody to kind of take it over. But for me, that's the most important part of me growing a business, is having the industry know what you're good at and what you're known for. So again, those value adds and USPs. Yeah,
love it. Let me ask you, Ephram, you have no doubt had advice from all sorts of places, and that might be from virtual mentors or peers and so on. But sometimes when you're going particularly through difficult times, some of that advice tends to bubble to the surface. The stuff that's really stuck with you. What are one or two of those pieces of advice that have actually managed to help you get through things like the GFC or COVID and actually come out the other side swinging and even stronger?
Yeah, great question. I have been very fortunate to, I guess, not surround myself with peers, but obviously it's cost me money. I've paid for the services along the way, but absolutely, non-executive directors, board advisors, business coaches. I've just reconnected with one of my very first business coaches, a guy called Casey Golan. Absolute machine. Anyone who's looking for a business coach between that probably 2 to 10 mil mark, he's worked wonders. He did a lot of work with the guys over at that'll come to me. But yeah, he's a great guy. I've done a lot of work with a guy called Mike Wormsley, non-executive director. Big Commerce was the company that Casey did a lot of work with, helped those guys launch that. Greg Savage, basically I've done one-on-one with Greg Savage, again, arguably the godfather of recruitment, and then a number of other peers as well. So I think when the chips are down or when the confidence is down, it's always kind of going back to the drawing board and going back to basics. I don't think you can go too wrong by doing that. Again, recruitment's not difficult. A lot of people do make it a lot harder than what it needs to be, and they overcomplicate things. But I think it's just going back to that, again, do the right thing. Your reputation is key. And it's such an incestuous industry that all it takes is, that one remark, that one comment, that one placement, and potentially your whole career's in tatters. So
during this journey, you will have made some mistakes, no doubt. I can't imagine that it was a straight line, that everything was roses all the way up. I don't think I've ever met an entrepreneur where that's been the case. What's been one of your biggest mistakes, and what have you learned from that?
Probably my biggest mistake was with the Kona and Co group. During lockdown, trying to scale a business at the rate that I was trying to scale the business, it just wasn't sustainable. Like it without the individuals involved, the business has got a phenomenal foundation. But for me personally, I was just trying to grow the business so quickly. And then obviously the COVID kind of came around. So for me, it's all about ethics. It's about doing the right thing. I had a guy working with me at Kona, and also a resourcer. So Claire was my first hire. Then Andy basically came on board. And again, I just wish I could have spent more time with those two individuals specifically to actually have done the right thing in regards to training, development, mentoring. And for me, I'm a big believer in leaving a legacy. I don't know of any other recruitment entrepreneur who's founded, scaled, and exited as many businesses that I have that are all still operating. Like there's no distress sales. It was literally all strategic. It was all done. Don't get me wrong. There was certain businesses that I sold because of certain, outside influences or my personal circumstances at the situation, obviously at that time. But ultimately, it's all about doing the right thing by your employees, because you're only as good as your team. And again, a cliche, I know, but it's so true when it comes to recruitment, because ultimately they are your ambassadors. They're the face of the business, they're the eyes and ears of the business. And that would certainly be one of the, not necessarily regrets, but certainly where I think I could have done better as an owner, as a manager. But then, you look at all the circumstances obviously surrounded that. You look at COVID. Again, I was based in Melbourne. We physically couldn't get out of our houses. We're in 5-kilometre radius. So I can come up with a number of antidotes about that. Being not scaling the business quick enough. Again, so from one extreme to another, we design and construct. I had the opportunity to scale that on multiple occasions. And when I mentioned earlier about doing London before Perth, the method in the madness there, it's like, well, surely it would have been better to get Perth down pat. But again, things that it's been a great experience, and you don't know what you don't know. It gets very lonely at the top. We all know that, but one shareholder, one director has predominantly been, the way that I've operated all the way through, and then obviously releasing equity over time. That would certainly be, one of the things.
I really appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm interested to know whether there's been, we of course all end up reading lots of books and, and getting exposed to different frameworks or methodologies or philosophies that have helped us. And so, given the audience of this podcast is primarily those founders, first-time founders, haven't gone past probably 10 million, they're still striving to scale. What, not necessarily what's a book or a tool or a framework that's inspired you, but what's one that you've actually sort of really taken and implemented, and as a result of that implementation, really seen a change in the growth trajectory or the ability to scale your business?
Yeah. Again, I guess this kind of coincides with the last question. It's in recruitment, there's so many business owners that just don't recruit. And, I've been one of those. I've kind of, taken the foot off the gas and working, on the business, not working in the business. And everyone will give you their 10 cents as to which way, is the best way to do it. And I think ultimately, again, it's going to be industry specific. But for me personally, being the face of the business, being on the phone, being the one that is not shy to put up a post or put up a job ad, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and really leading from the front. That's, I think, once I really made that shift again with, quite a few of the businesses, was to be more hands-on, more involved, bringing in the deals, rainmaking, because that's why we got into it. That's why I got into it in the first place, right? And I think it's so easy to lose sight of that because you get carried away. You get suppliers inviting you out. You get basically, people wanting to come and meet with you for interviews that you wouldn't normally interview, but, you feel it's kind of a bit of a catch-22, because obviously they want the knowledge and the experience. You obviously you volunteer your time, but then again, I think it's just those distractions of growing. Just focus on doing what you do best, and leave everyone else to just kind of get on with all their crap, basically, mate. I mean, it's so easy for one to kind of take the foot off the gas, get a little bit sidetracked with something else. I've had 3 online businesses that I founded during that time as well. Basically, I've had a tea detox business. I've had a coffee body scrub product, pink Himalayan rock salt. I'm now involved in a cosmetic business. We're stocked in over 300 salons. So for me, it's about not getting carried away. I love business. I love entrepreneurship. But at the same time, I feel very privileged and very honored to have had the opportunities that I've had to work with the individuals that I've had. And for me now, it's about collating all that information and all that experience, all that knowledge, the wins, the losses, the good times, the bad times. And just making sure that we're doing things right every time.
I think one of the things that you said that I think incredibly helpful for people, because I have this conversation regularly with clients of mine around you came at that from an approach of fundamentally strengths, right? Like just do what you're strong at, don't let go of it, but also don't take your eye off the ball. And there's 2 things I think that are instructive about that. One is, where do you get your energy from? What are the activities that actually give you energy in the business? Because when you're the founder, you need to retain your energy. And if you're all of a sudden you found yourself, you were doing stuff you love, the business has grown, you're now doing actually stuff that you can't stand, that you hate, and it's draining from you, you're giving everybody else all of that energy. You can't not give them that energy. If you don't find a way to actually still do some of the things that really give you juice, there's going to be an issue in the business in the medium term, because you can always find other people that can do those things that you don't love. And secondly, one of the things that I think sometimes as businesses scale, it really gets lost is talking to customers. And if the people at the top, no matter the size of the business, if the leadership team is not all talking to customers on a regular basis, including the CEO, you're gonna end up putting in place a lot of strategies that you think are going to work, or that you think that the customers might want, but actually the people who are making those decisions really need to be talking to the customers on an absolutely consistent basis. Otherwise, you lose touch with potentially the trade, but also the tone and the pulse of the market and what customers want, what their pain problems are. And so I think you've really, in your business, that's part and parcel of the conversation, but it's also you leveraging your strengths.
Absolutely. So again, just with your strengths, I mean, for me, it was, like I said, I'm dyslexic. So for me, that kind of admin function is that I'm good at it, but is my time better off spent on something else? So, again, virtual assistants. I'm still using 2 virtual assistants that have been employed with me now for going on 11 years. It's, even when I don't have work for them, I'll find work for them to do, but for me, it's to know that I've got that kind of solid base of admin support as and when I need it, So for, again, automation, just automate as much as possible. Collar Group has invested, we're literally just getting off the ground now, but we've already signed and obviously mentioned to yourself several multi-million-dollar contracts, and it's all based on the foundation of the CRM. So our CRM, we have then 8 marketplace partners or 8 other suppliers who all plug into the CRM, which will all make the process and streamline the candidate experience. So again, candidate-centric approach. The candidate experience, their onboarding process with us is well, I'm going to be biased, but I think he's probably one of the best in the industry. The payroll function, the timesheet management, again, is all basically done with an amazing piece of tech stack. The references, the reformatting of resumes, again, the compliance of tickets or checking of tickets, licenses, Vivo checks, again, basically, brought all that into literally a click of a button. So there's no reason for us to leave our computer. I mean, as long as we've got a phone, we can speak to any candidates, we can meet them face to face, but that kind of compliance process, I'm excited to announce, and this is a industry first, mate. I've literally just come off the phone with one of my other suppliers and one of my other partners. We're actually going to be the first recruitment agency in Australia that's actually going to be offering daily pay One of the things, the business that I've just been involved in, one of the biggest frustrations was candidates getting paid and, waiting a week, sometimes 2 weeks to get timesheets approved, and through no fault of their own, physically not being able to get paid on time. So again, looking at things, how can we add value to the industry? How can we, support our candidates without our candidate? Picking up clients it's easy. As long as you're ethical and you never overpromise and underdeliver, clients will listen to what you've got to say. You've got to obviously, show them the proof is in the pudding and deliver on what you say you're going to. But, so for us, we're really focusing on that kind of candidate experience and how can we build up our own loyal candidate base. In recruitment, it's very transactional. You'll pick up a role today, you might speak to a candidate today, but our client will call back tomorrow or in a week's time with the same role. It's like, well, let's go back to all the candidates. Again, it seems like it should be very straightforward and businesses should be doing it, but they just don't in recruitment. So again, automation. I've got a call this afternoon at 4:00 where we're chatbots aren't anything new, but again, how can we help the candidate experience by coming on to the website will be launching in the next 10 days, and again, the website has been all designed about that candidate experience. How can we make it easy for them? So being the only basically recruitment agency in Australia offering daily pay, I think that's
very exciting, mate.
It's amazing. Honestly, mate, I'm really excited about it, not just for my candidates and for the employees of the business, but also for the industry as a whole. It's trying to get away with that
time. New bar.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
And also, I think sometimes what is lost in the context of automation is, and where people can sometimes feel a bit threatened about the fact that there's all this automation going on. It's like, well, the whole point, from my perspective, of leveraging good quality automation tools, whether that's just workflow automation or it's kind of AI enabled or whatever, the whole point is actually it should be freeing you up to be more human. It should be freeing you up to have richer, deeper, more connected experience with other people, because you're not spending your time doing a whole bunch of stuff that actually is far better done by a machine.
No, that's exactly it, mate. Because when I talk about the automation and I talk about the CRM and all the marketplace partners, there's no interaction with the candidate in any of that, as in it's literally to help the candidate onboard themselves as streamlined and as easy as possible without, I don't know if you've ever applied for a job, Sean, to a recruitment agency and gone down the kind of, okay, great, so congratulations, you're starting your new position tomorrow. Here's 20 pages of documents, policies, procedures that you need to read through to sign, and gone are the days. I know there are still companies that may be still using faxes or the equivalent, but that, yes, you have to give that information to candidates, and obviously it's vital that they read through it all. But let's lighten the load and let's basically make the experience that much more enjoyable. Interesting stat that out of every 100 people that you apply, basically in my experience over the last 18 months, for every 100 people that actually physically apply, so you've onboarded, you've sent them the required documentation, they've started the process of uploading their tickets, licenses, basically Vivo checks, whatever the case may be. Out of those 100, you're probably only placing close to about 20% if you're lucky. So the other 80 candidates have had to go through all that rigmarole of registering the details, working with your technology if you have technology. So even that experience that they leave, if they don't get the job for whatever reason, and not everyone is going to get the job, there's potentially so much damage from a PR point of view that is being done.
Every touch point is a brand experience.
Absolutely, mate. So again, just looking at things differently, how can we, make the process so much easier? And I hate to say it, but more enjoyable. That's ultimately what we're trying to do.
100%. And to be frank, I think people's expectations have gone up a lot because, we're constantly getting exposed to more efficient, more, more customized, more personalized, easier, mobile first experiences. And when you find a business that's still running stuff where they're going, oh, can I send you this 12-page document? You need to print it off. You need to do it by hand. You need to sign it. You just go, I'll just find someone else because I just can't even get my head around doing it anymore. So that's pretty exciting. Look, I've got 2 questions left for you given the time that we've got today. The first one is, what is life going to look like for you in 3 years' time? Because you've got, this has been a pretty significant run of super fast pace, constant, constant scaling, next business, and then you're entering a different sort of stage of life, and you've also started a new business in 3 years' time. What do you think this is all going to look like for you?
A combination of all the other 11 businesses is what I can say hand on heart, mate. The experience, one of my biggest regrets coming into recruitment was that I never joined a Hayes, I never joined a Michael Page or a Robert Walters, arguably the best companies in recruitment, and their training that they offer their juniors or their associates is phenomenal. It's world class. So for me, it was all about not necessarily not feeling good enough, but always feeling like I had something to prove. And for me personally now, kind of looking back and going, okay, great. If I can just take 10% out of those 11 businesses, and whether that's experience, skill set, whether that's industry specialization, how to recruit or whatever, then we're going to have a very successful business with Kona Group. The feedback that I've had within basically the industry from my peers, from obviously other networks, is it's really exciting, and the opportunity that is in front of us now is to grow one of the most successful. I'm not going to say largest, because I'm kind of over that growing a large business and
large for the sake of large,
yeah. Revenues, obviously, vanity. Profit sanity, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm all about profitability. I want to reinvest back in. We're looking at some training facilities at the moment over here in Perth, where we're looking at starting a training part of the business. So for apprenticeships, I want to be giving back. You and I obviously met through the YPO, so Young Presidents Organisation. Again, just getting more involved in that. So for me, it's about having a quality of work life, growing something great. And leaving that legacy. That's probably the easiest way for me to say.
Fabulous. Last question for you, and this is a segment that I ask each founder who's scaled a business. The segment's called Above All Else. So I want you to imagine now, go out much further. Imagine you're now in your yearning years. You've achieved all you wanted. You've started as many businesses. You've already done, I don't know, 10 or something. So let's assume that's probably 30 by the time that you're done and you're tired. But you've achieved all the things that you've wanted, and you get a call from the CEO of the world's largest global community of first-time founders. There's tens of millions of them around the world, and they are hungry. And she gives you a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to share your wisdom with them. And she asks you to complete this sentence, which is, above all else, the 3 things that you have to get right as a founder if you want to scale are, what would be your 3 above all else's? The 3 things you must get right as a founder if you want to scale.
Yeah, most important would be passion. And when I say everybody from the owner all the way down has to be passionate about what you do, especially when it comes to recruitment. If you don't have that passion, that culture, that drive, then ultimately what's the point in being in business? You're just going to become another agency that's just going to become a job filler. And I guess the other point on that would be to have fun. Like you've got to enjoy what it is you do. We spend too much of our time at work for us not to be happy. Why not create a working environment where everyone actually enjoys coming to work? Cliche, I know, and it's going to be difficult to kind of manage that. And I guess the next thing would be love what you do. Again, it just comes back to passion. I think if you were to have interviewed me 17 years ago, mate, I'd still be the same bubbly, jovial, enthusiastic, passionate recruiter as I am today. I don't think anything's changed. I might have a few more grey hairs and a different kind of style haircut, but apart from that, mate, passion, hunger, drive, love what you do is, ultimately, for me, again, you could ask that question and get so many different answers in regards to, I think what it always come back to is why are they in business, or why did they go into business for themselves in the first place.
And it's not only that it's not only that is fulfilling in energy for you, but it's also something that's giving, creating a space where you're being able to give that to other people.
It's a springboard. Honestly, it's like the best foundation springboard to attract the similar type of individuals, whether that's entrepreneurs, whether that's employees, or whatever the case may be. I think that's what creates that kind of culture and that type of buzz around.
I love it. Thank you, mate. Myself. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. And I'd really like to acknowledge you. The thing that I love about the way that you've built these businesses is that it feels like each time you've really actually spent time thinking about, what do I have to take from that experience to make sure I build into the next one? And so it's almost like a scaffolding. Each business has become better than the last, better built than the last, with more thought, with more wisdom, with more experience applied, but you still retained all of that energy to continue to do it and actually probably increase the amount of energy. So rather than getting burned out, as many people would have, having gone through this sort of serial entrepreneurship, it seems like it gives you more energy each time because it's almost like it's getting easier because you're gathering all that experience, and rather than going, okay, that was that experience, let's put it to the side, you're going, that was a great experience. And if I scaffold that on top of everything else I've learned, the next one's actually easier, more enjoyable, and
100%, because then if you can kind of take any of that experience and help any candidates along the way or help your clients along the way, it's good business. It's not rocket science. It's good business. They'll keep coming back for years and years, and I think again that's testament to where we are today.
100%. Thank you so much, Ephram. I really appreciate you giving us your time today. How can people get in touch or follow what you're doing?
Yeah, by all means, if obviously people are keen to reach out, and look, I'm always happy to answer any questions or queries. I take time out of my day to speak to other like-minded entrepreneurs. And the easiest way is for you to look me up at LinkedIn, so Ephram Stephenson. EPHREM. There's only a couple of us on LinkedIn. There's only a couple of us on LinkedIn. But yeah, by all means, LinkedIn is probably the best way for anyone to reach out to me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Huge thanks to Ephram Stephenson. I really appreciate, again, your wisdom and your time, and I think there's been some incredible gold in there for our audience. A couple of things before you go, folks. If you got value from today and you loved what Ephram had to say, I would really appreciate you leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It, of course, helps the algorithms give access to this to other people, but it also really gives our team a massive boost. And like Ephram, we have numerous people working on this in the background, so it really it gives them a lot of joy. If you'd like to know when new episodes are going to drop, or you'd like to be notified when there's free tools and resources, just jump on the website scaleupspodcast.com. You can register your email there, or you can leave us a question that myself or a future guest will happy to answer about scaling up in your own business. Or if you prefer to use the socials, you can find us on all social platforms on @ScaleUpsPodcast. But remember, before you go, there is actually only one thing that can absolutely guarantee that you're not going to be able to scale, and that is to give up. When it gets hard, it's easy to quit. And there's so many times that it's going to happen where you're going to be going, oh, maybe this is the time, but that's exactly the time that you need to stay unshakable in your faith that you're going to succeed, but flexible in your approach to make sure that you get there. You've been listening to the Scale Ups podcast. I'm Sean Steele. I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Thanks so much, Ephram.
Thanks, Sean.
G'day everyone, just a couple of quick things before you go. If you have questions that you'd love myself or an upcoming guest to tackle about challenges that you're facing in scaling your business, please just jump straight on the website, scaleupspodcast.com. You can record your message straight from your mobile by hitting the button on the right-hand side of the page, or you can just email them the old-fashioned way, questions@scaleupspodcast.com. And just a quick reminder, nothing we spoke about today constitutes financial or business advice. If you are considering making big decisions in your business, seek out a professional who can look at your situation in detail and make sure you're getting sound, personalised advice. Thanks for listening. Look forward to being back in your podcast feed next week.